Ladies and gentlemen, it was very difficult for me to watch and enjoy tonight's lesson plan. Anton Surgersson, he is an Icelandic writer, director, and producer, and he says about tonight's movie, this is a quote, visually and tonally, I approached Refuge as a restrained psychological thriller where tension comes from performance and atmosphere rather than spectacle. I'm drawn to stories that don't offer comfort or easy resolution, but instead linger after the credits roll. My hope is that Refuge leaves audiences unsettled, not by what they see, but by what they might do if placed in a similar, impossible situation. Now, that's his quote, and that's what he tried to do with tonight's movie. Perhaps hearing that quote, it will prove that he succeeded in completing the Zettel model of message theory. Or perhaps I just appreciate the spectacle more. Cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is in. Greetings, salutations, and other sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. And tonight's movie is Refuge. It comes to us from the folks at Saban Films. What's going on in this story is Sam. Sam has lost his daughter. And after 4 years of being totally frustrated with the legal system, he decides to investigate on his own and he makes a few discoveries as to her disappearance. To prove them, however, he utilizes a fishing trip with his friends to foster a deadly reckoning.
I remember this place being bigger.
Entrevue.
Oh man, when was the last time we were here?
Oh God, it's gotta be, I don't know, 4 years.
I got a bad feeling about this.
What can go wrong with a fishing trip?
What is going on? What is this, some kind of game?
Well, that depends on you.
A citywide search is underway for 10-year-olds looking to cancel.
You know, it's amazing how fast the last 4 years have gone. I was there all the time. A diary entry. It tells me that one of you were involved in her disappearance. Tell me where my daughter
Do you have anything to do with this?
Barry, you okay? He's clearly lost his mind. We gotta get out of here.
We're tied to chairs. How are we gonna get out of here, Mike?
Let me be crystal clear. Not one of you is leaving here until I get a confession. Now, I have 6 bullets in this gun. I only need 3.
Barry, you got something to say?
Well, there's only one way to find out.
You gone insane?
Oh, I have never felt more sane in my entire life.
Let's take a look in front of the camera, shall we? Adam Sinclair plays Sam. Now, he grew up in Scotland and he studied at the rather prestigious Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. Well, it shows he has some talent in here, and he is, of course, the story's main protagonist slash antagonist. The line is kind of blurred with his character. Adam Dorsey plays Mike. He's one of the fishing buddies, and the unique thing about Mike was he was born in Boston and moved out to the left coast to make his name in Hollywood and what have you. And it never really happened for him. He actually ended up in politics and became the L.A. fundraiser for Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. And after Arnie was done with his political career, he kind of nudged Adam a little bit and got him into the movies where he always wanted to be. Rounding out the cast is Donald Paul as Barry and Christopher Dietrich as Jay. Saying behind the camera, as I mentioned in the opening comments, this movie was written and directed and produced by Anton Sigurdsson. Our cinematography was done by Gunnar Adun Johansson. A couple of Icelandic guys getting together and working together. They've worked together before and seem to know each other rather well. The shot framing and sequencing is done well. It is edited by Sharif M.S. Ali. This is another of the many Middle Eastern technicians that have come in through movies because of large donations made to Tinseltown by Middle Eastern sheikhs, shall we say. And what I wanted to point out too was Peter Seba. He actually does the music, the scoring for Refuge, and probably of all the technical things involved, the music stands out the best. He's done a really good job in this, and it really helps the movie move along. In summation, this movie was very difficult to watch. Perhaps that's because it's a little unnerving. Perhaps it's because what happens in this movie is well, incredulous in a lot of ways. And once the resolution is discovered, there's no explanation that goes with it. And as such, there's a giant hole missing from the entire script. Now, the opening credits are done rather neatly. I like the way they mix the graphics with the scenery and what have you, and it was done well. There's several interrogation scenes, but the very first one that appears in the movie, they're rather sporadic. And before you find out what's going on, during the interrogation scene, the background constantly changes. Now, you find out a little bit later on in the movie why and how this is being done, but at the time you don't know, and as such, it's discombobulating. I found it very difficult to identify with any of these characters, and as such, empathy toward them is non existent, and as a result, you really don't care too much about what happens. While viewers can sit around and play their own game of guessing who the killer might be, the scenario seems rather unlikely, and the friends who were gathered for this fishing trip do not seem like the type of people who would naturally bond with one another. We're going to let this one a little bit lower than average grade. It missed on a couple of marks for Refuge. And now that you have learned what you have learned, here ended your lesson.